Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to the class. A very warm welcome, guys. Let me just check if I'm live once. Okay, yes, I'm live and good to go. A very, very, very warm welcome to the class, everyone. So, you all already know me. My name is Nikki Sinha, and I welcome you all to another class with Result Guru on your state PSCs. And before we begin, I would request all of you to please join us on the Telegram group. The link has been given below, and also we have the scan code for you. So, just in case, you can use either to join the Telegram group. Now, why do you need to join the Telegram group? Because that is where you will get updates regarding the classes. You will get your notes, you can talk to your teachers, you can clear your doubts, but we will also have specific doubt clearing sessions for that as well. So, all that being said, I just wanted to point out one thing, guys. So, if you all remember, in the last class, we were doing a major aspect of the later Vedic civilization, and that was Buddhism and Jainism. And I started the class, and somehow the stream ended because of some technical issues. I could not understand why. I really tried getting it on again, but it could not happen. So, even though the thumbnail here says that we will be doing an MCQ on the Vedic and the later Vedic civilization, I wanted to finish with that topic because I had started with it. So, at least I wanted to finish with that. And in the next class, we will have a comprehensive MCQ of early Vedic age, and then we'll have a comprehensive MCQ of later Vedic age. That's what we plan to do because I just wanted to finish that because we have not been able to complete it because of the issue that we were facing. So we should be doing that now. So let's start. I think we should start without wasting any further time. Let's begin with talking about a major aspect of the later Vedic civilization, and that was the rise of new religion, which is Buddhism and Jainism. Now, now, this is actually not a part or not something which is there in the later Vedic civilization. This is something which happens after the later Vedic age. But since we were discussing it, I thought it would be good that we have a continuous discussion because this continuous discussion will keep in your mind a very good context. So, what have we seen? So till now, what all have we seen? We have seen early Vedic age. All right. Now, in the early Vedic age, we have seen a lot of equality, guys, isn't it? We've seen a lot of equality. We have seen divisions based on occupations. We have seen women having a lot of rights. We have seen Sabha and Samiti. We've seen a different kind of environment. We have also seen a different kind of economy. So at that point of time, most of the people, most of the Aryans and the non-Aryans were basically pastoralists, right? So all this was part of your early Vedic age. From early Vedic age, we moved on to the later Vedic age. Now, in the later Vedic age, there were certain changes which happened, which we discussed also in the last to last class. But I want to discuss this once again so that again, in one video, you have full understanding of what we are doing. So, in the later Vedic age, what all has happened? Now, first of all, we see the rise, not the rise, but Varnas. Now, earlier, Varnas were on the basis of occupation, but now Varnas are on the basis of birth. So, if you're born a Kshatriya, you would be a Kshatriya. If you're born a Shudra, you would be a Shudra. If you're born a Brahman, then you would be a Brahman. And also, you will see the rise of this new category or new one which was known as the Shudra one, because that is something which is not there in the early Vedic age. That being said, also we will see now, because from pastoralism we move towards agriculture, and because we also started using a lot of metals, particularly iron, and metal industry had developed. So because of that, we see a lot of new occupations coming in. We see metal workers, we see goldsmiths and blacksmiths. So we also see a number of new occupations that could not be fitted in the four varnas, right? And hence we see the growth of jatis as well. Now, what are jatis? Jatis are basically those occupations which you could not fit in the 4-1, and hence you have a number of jatis. Now, what happened? There was one particular jati who was involved in doing one of the most menial tasks possible. They were handling the corpses, they served as scavengers for the society, they were acted as executioners for the dead bodies, for those who did not have relatives. They were the ones who were burning the dead bodies. Now, these people were placed on the lowest rung of the social ladder. They were given the lowest of the positions possible. Now, that being said, they were given the lowest of the lowest of the positions possible. So, we will see the rise of a new jati, sorry, not one, and that is what? That is your untouchables, also known as Chandals. Later on, they were known as Dalits. So, what is the problem here? Now, why do you think I'm talking about all of these things? Now, with the untouchables, now as you can see, the name itself is very derogatory. You're calling a section of people, you're calling a section of society as untouchable. So, these people were supposed to live outside of the villages. They were supposed to wear clothes of the dead. They were not supposed to, touch anyone. They had to sound a clapper, or they had to wear a bell in their necks so that they could make a sound whenever they were entering any place, so that people could avoid seeing them. Now, all of this tells us that there was no equality in our society. All of this tells us that there was a section of society that has been marginalized to a large extent. Okay, so what do we do? Since it has been marginalized to a large extent, हम क्या करेंगे? We, in this context, we are going to see the rise of Buddhism and Jainism. All right, how are we seeing? Because now, why? Because see, we are marginalizing a large section of the society, and that section is obviously going to want equality. And who offered them this equality? This equality was offered to them by whom? By Buddhism and Jainism. So that's what we will be talking about in today's class. So I hope this whole journey is clear to you, and how from early Vedic age we move on to later Vedic age, and from later Vedic age we move on to the new religions of Buddhism and Jainism. Now, what I'll cover today, guys, is your NCRT syllabus, your class 12th NCRT syllabus, because that also is very important. For any UPSC or state PSC's exam, what you need to cover, you also need to cover your NCRT, right? So okay, so that's what we will be doing today. So I'll be covering aspects from NCRT book, but don't worry, I will also be covering aspects from other competitive books as well. So absolutely don't worry about that. But NCRT coverage is also necessary. This will also give you a quick revision of the basic aspects. All right, so I think we should start. Okay, so if you could just tell me if you have any doubts. If you have no doubts, then we can absolutely start. Okay. All right. Now, since there are no doubts, I think we should begin and I think we should start now. So, first of all, let's talk about how people started talking about Buddhism, how people started talking about this particular religion. First of all, we have to have some kind of archaeological, source. We have to have some kind of archaeological discovery for that. So, in that archaeological discovery, we have the Sanchi Stupa. Now, the Sanchi Stupa, it was one of the best preserved stupas which has ever been found. So, Europeans, particularly French and English Europeans, English, were really, really interested in the Sanchi Stupa. The French also tried to take Shah Jahan's Begum, who was then the ruler of Bhopal. Guys, these are very important points which you should remember, that who was the ruler of Bhopal at that point of time. So it was Shah Jahan Begum. So they tried to take away the eastern gateway. So any stupa will have four cardinal gateways, which is north, south, east, west, and gateways on each on either of the four sides. So they wanted to take away the eastern gateway, which was the best preserved. They wanted to display it in the museum in France. For a long time, the English wanted to do the same. But obviously, thanks to Shah Jahan Begum, they had to do with plaster cast copies. So, the ruler of Bhopal, Shah Jahan Begum, and her successor, Sultan Jahan Begum, they completely are responsible for the best preservation that has been offered to the Sanchi Stupa. So, John Marshall was called to do a research on the stupa and to publish his volume. So, Sultan Jahan Begum and Shah Jahan Begum, they provided money for the conservation. They also provided money for the guest house. They built a museum there. They also funded the publication of the volumes which have been written by John Marshall. And that is one of the reasons why John Marshall dedicates very important volumes or parts of whatever research he had done to Sultan Jahan Begum. That was one of the reasons why they would do so. So, Shah Jahan Begum and her successor Sultan Jahan Begum are two very important people who are responsible for the preservation of this particular stupa. Now, I have already explained this, sacrificial tradition to you all. I've already spoken about what was there in the early Vedic tradition, what was there in the later Vedic tradition. This all we have already done. So I hope there is no doubts here. If you could just take a look at all this, just take a look at all of this once and let me know if there's anything you've not understood. So, in this particular slide, they're talking about the sacrificial tradition in the early Vedic age and then in the later Vedic age. So, in the early Vedic age, what happened? The sacrifices could be performed by anyone. So, it was performed for the well being of the family. So, it could be done by anyone. But later on, it became much more elaborate. It was more about money and show off rather than, well being of your family. And then it could only be done by the head of the households. And kings performed various kinds of sacrifices like Ashwamedh, Rajasyu, Vajpaya, Yagya. And obviously, it also increased the supremacy of the priestly class of the Brahmin Varna. So this is what we have spoken about. If you could just let me know if you have any doubts, guys. Otherwise, we'll cut. Okay. All right. I think we should move ahead since there are no doubts. Let's move ahead. So let's talk about the debates and question and the central philosophy of Buddhism. So, in Buddhist text, so we have three Buddhist texts. We have the Deepvamsh, the Mahavamsh. Now, these are something which have been written in Sri Lanka. Then we have the Tripitakas. So, in the Buddhist text, mention as many as 64 schools of thought. Please remember this, guys. Again, it's a very important point. You can get a question on this. Now, what do you mean? So, 64 schools of thought. What do you mean by schools of thought? Schools of thought actually mean how you understand the world, or how a traveler or a mendicant or a Buddhist monk understood the world. And they would travel from one place to another. They would try to convince the common people of their viewpoint, and they would also try to convince each other. Now, these debates took place in Kutagrishala. Now, what is a Kutagrishala? Kutagrishala basically means it's like a small pointed hut like this. So it has a pointed roof, or it would take place in groves or orchards. That's where the mendicants would stay. They would halt and they would try to convince each other. So if you all remember, I had explained in the last class that suppose you have Medicant A having 20 followers and Medicant B having 20 followers. So if Medicant A convinces Medicant B, so Medicant B has lost. So these 20 followers would become part of Medicant A followers. So that is why they're saying that the support for any particular sect could shrink or could grow depending upon whether you have been able to convince them. Now, Buddha and Mahavir, they have both been part of such, they've both been part of such things. They've both been part of such debating aspects. Now, they have both questioned the authority of the Vedas. Now, to put it more rightly, they have not really questioned the authority of the Vedas, but what they have questioned here is the practices of the later Vedic age. ठीक है? इन्होंने किस चीज को क्वेश्चन किया? They've questioned the practices of the later Vedic age. So more than the Vedas, they're questioning the practice of the later Vedic age. That's exactly what is happening. So now Buddhism and Jainism, both of them, has emphasized on individual agency. What do you mean by individual agency? By individual agency, we mean karma. They have both focused on karma, and they both say that both men and women, they can basically attain liberation from the trials and tribulations of the worldly existence. Meaning what? That they can find existence, they can find liberation from this, constant birth and rebirth and all of that by focusing on their karmas. Means by focusing on their individual वर्क और वट एवर दे आर डूइंग, उनके जो काम है, उनके जो कर्म है, पूरे लाइफ टाइम में उन्होंने जो भी किया है, अगर वो उस पर फोकस रखे, इफ दे फोकस ऑन देयर गुड कर्मास और इफ दे कीप डूइंग गुड कर्मास, then only they will be able to find the ultimate goal, which is nirvana, or which is basically getting free, okay, getting free from the trials and tribulations of this worldly existence. That's what they want to talk to you about. Fine. So that's what that is the core crux of Buddhism, guys. Buddhism has always believed in what? Buddhism has always believed in individual agency. Okay. चलिए, तो अब हम थोड़ा बहुत फोकस कर लेते हैं. Let's focus on Mahavir. Now, who is Mahavir? Let's talk about him. Let's get to know about him. Now, as you know, Mahavir is generally associated with whom? Mahavir is generally associated. Okay, also, sorry guys, let me know if you have any doubts here, and then we'll continue. So, since there are no doubts, we should also move ahead and let's talk about Mahavir. So, now Jainism, guys, is actually usually associated with Mahavir. But I just want to point out that this comes as a question. This can be a tricky question sometimes. That the founder of Jainism is actually not Mahavir. The founder of Jainism is a person called Rishabhnath. So please remember this because he was the first teacher or the first Tirthankar you can talk about. Okay? He was what? He was the first Tirthankar. And also, what is happening here is that there were 23 other teachers before him. All right. There were 23 other Tirthankars before him. And Mahavir, he was the 24th Tirthankar. So he was no way close to, finding Jainism. But yes, you can say that he was responsible for spreading it and he was responsible for making it very popular. Okay, so chaliye, let's begin. So the basic philosophy of Jainism had already been in existence before the birth of Vardhaman Mahavir. He came to be known as Mahavir in the 6th century BC. Again, a very important question, guys. A very important point. When did he gain the title of Mahavir in the 6th century BC? Now, according to tradition, before Mahavir, there were 23 other Tirthankars. Okay, literally those who guide men and women across the river of existence. तो तीर्थंकर्स का literal meaning क्या होता है? Basically, it is those people or those teachers who will guide you beyond your existence towards liberation or towards nirvana. So there were 23 other teachers and 24th was Mahavir. Now, let us talk about the most important ideas that are there in Jainism. Now, all these are very important points, guys. Please remember them. The most important idea in Jainism is that the entire world is animated. Animated means it is living. Now, non injury, so especially non violence, was very important in Jainism, particularly to humans, animals, plants, insects. So, I think for everyone, non violence or non injury to all the living beings around us, and sometimes non living beings also, that was the basic idea of Jainism. Now, according to Jain teachings, if you want to reshape or if you want to move away from this cycle of birth and rebirth, it can only be done through karma. Then, what else they have said? They also believe that asceticism and penance. Now, asceticism is living like a sadhu when you give up all the worldly pleasures and you take sannyas. That's what asceticism means, doing tapasya. And penance here does not means prayashchit. Penance here means tapasya. So these are the only two ways in which you can break the cycle of karma. Now, so and how do you do it? You focus on your karma. So, the Jain monks and nuns took 5 vows. First of all, they had to abstain from killing. Secondly, lying and stealing. Observe celibacy, that is, they can't engage in sexual activities and hence they can't get married as well. They also have to abstain from possessing property. So, they can't have a lot of property or anything which ties them down or anything, which ties them down to the worldly pleasure. That is something which is they're not allowed to have. It is forbidden for them. Okay, so let me know if you have any doubts here, guys. So I think it's quite clear because I don't see any messages of doubts in the live chat. Chilly. All right, let's move ahead then. Okay. Now let's talk about our favorite, which is Buddha. So Buddhism, guys, had spread to a lot of places, right? China, Korea, Japan, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, Indonesia. Lot of places you can see Buddhism. Now, how have we reconstructed Buddha's life? We have reconstructed Buddha's life through hagiographies. Now, what are hagiographies? Please remember this definition. Hagiographies are basically histories of religious people. So the histories of religious people, whatever history has been written about these religious people, that's what hagiographies are. Now, most of the hagiographies were written much later. They were written quite some time after Buddha. That's one thing. Now, according to this tradition, but most of them agree to a certain aspects, and that is why we believe that to be history. So according to the tradition, he was the son of the chief of the Sakya clan. Please remember these guys. Okay, and where was he born? He was born in, yes. So he had a sheltered upbringing, obviously, fine. He had a very, very, very sheltered upbringing, and he was insulated. Like his father did not really want him to go out and face the harsh realities of the world. So one day he asked his charioteer means जो उनके रथ चलाते हैं, उनसे कहा गया कि you have to take me outside. And what he saw outside was really traumatic because he saw three things. He saw an old man, a sick man, and a corpse. Now, these were three sights which really, really disturbed him. So, and he realized the death and decay and the destruction of the body and death is the ultimate reality, is something which is inevitable. You can't stop it. But then he also saw a mendicant, a homeless mendicant. He has basically found peace with everything. He has found peace with old age. He had found peace with disease. He had found peace with death. He had come to terms with it. And that is why Buddha also decided to follow the same path. He left his place. He left his beautiful wife Yashoda. He left his beautiful son Rahul, and then he went on to search for his own truth. So he tried a lot of ways. Fine, he explored several paths. He explored paths like bodily mortification, which is, starving yourself, not eating anything, trying to hit yourself, trying to punish yourself, which obviously led to a near death situation. So he realized that these extreme methods is not as what is going to help him. So what did he do? He abandoned these extreme methods, and then he sat down. He started meditating. And once he had meditated, he finally was able to attain enlightenment, and hence he was known as Buddha, the enlightened one. Now, and after that, he taught the dharma, or the righteous living. After that, after attaining nirvana, sorry, after attaining enlightenment. All right. So just take a look at the points if you have any doubts. So these are very general points, guys. This is the story of Buddha. I think all of us know about it. So just let me know if you have any doubts here. All right, so I can see no questions as such in the live chat. So I think we should move ahead. हम आगे बढ़ते हैं. Okay. Now, let's try to understand the teachings of Buddhism. This is the most important aspect. पूरे चैप्टर में पूरे इस इसमें सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट अगर कुछ है तो वो यही है, दैट इज योर टीचिंग्स ऑफ बुद्धा. Just a second, guys. This is the most important. All right, check. Buddha's teachings have been reconstructed, particularly from Sut Pitak. So I told you there are three Pitakas. There are three Pitaks: Sut Pitak, Abhidham Pitak. All right. So Sut Pitak is one of the main books from which we have reconstructed the teachings of Buddha. Now, Buddha never claimed to have miraculous powers. All right. बुद्धा ने कभी ये चीज़ क्लेम नहीं की थी कि उनके पास miraculous powers है. Nothing like that. Okay. So, he never claimed to have miraculous powers. Fine. Although some stories do describe his miraculous power, but he had never displayed anything like that. There's a story which I'm sure you have read in classes 6 and 7, where a woman had lost her son, and Buddha, instead of bringing back her son, by using magic, he ultimately convinced her about the inevitability of death. That death is something which is bound to happen. So let's take a look at some of the main teachings of Buddhism. From here, please mark the points. These are very important points from here to here. ये सारे जो हैं ये बहुत important points हैं. First of all, he said that this entire world is transient, which is anicca, and it is constantly changing. That is the first teaching that Buddha had. What is that? That this entire world is transient, it is constantly changing. Then he said this entire world is also soulless, anatta, and there is nothing eternal in this constantly changing world. Fine. Then he also said that dukh or sorrow is intrinsic to human existence, means if you're born as a human being, you are bound to face such things. You're bound to face dukh. Now, then what he suggested? Now, he did not suggest anything out of this world to basically, conquer all of these things. To conquer your fears or to conquer your dukh. No. That's the best part about him. He, suggested a path of moderation. Fine. He said that you need not engage in severe penance. Matlab, you need not punish yourself, or you need not give up everything and live like a sadhu, give up all the worldly pleasures. No. But at the same time, you should not engage in overindulgence as well. Means, you should not be engaged in over luxury, or you should not be engaged in over greed as well. You should have whatever is needed, but not something which is extra. So that's what he said, that overindulgence or being overtly luxurious or being having what is not needed, that is what he said is not good. So he said, let's find a middle path between severe penance, between having nothing and having everything. Let's find a middle path. Fine. And then he said that only if you follow the middle path or the policy of moderation will one be able to rise above these worldly treasures. Okay? And also the Buddha regarded the social world as a creation of human beings rather than divine origin. So here he is directly questioning the one system. What is he saying? That the one system was actually created by human beings and it is not a divine origin, unlike what has been mentioned in the later Vedic books. Therefore, he advised the kings and the Gahapatis to be very human and very ethical towards their subjects. Individual effort was expected to transform social relations. What do you mean by that? he said that only if you take individual efforts, only if as individuals, if we follow equality, then only the social relations, these differences in the society, will be able to, we will be able to curb it, we will be able to end it only if we ourselves follow that. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Let me know if you have any doubts here. Okay. All right, so I can see no doubts in the live chat. Let's move ahead then. Now, again, so as I already explained, that Buddha emphasized on individual agency, and he also emphasized on righteous action. And he said that these are the only means through which you can escape the trials and tribulations of birth and rebirth, and you can attain salvation. So, this I've already explained what individual agency means. Now, according to Buddhist tradition, his last words to his followers were, be lambs unto yourselves, as all of you must work toward your own liberation. So, what is he saying here? That, be the lamp of your own road, light up your own path, because that is the path that will lead you to liberation. Or basically, what he's saying is that you are solely responsible for your liberation. So, you must guide yourself, you must be the lamp for yourselves who guide yourselves towards liberation. So that's what he is talking about. Okay, chali, let's move ahead and then we can, clear our doubts altogether. Now, when I began the class with you guys, I told you that there were a certain section of the society who were now delegated as untouchables, who were now living outside of the villages, and they were facing the worst form of discrimination possible. And I told you that as a result of this, we will see the rise of Buddhism and Jainism. So obviously, the followers of Buddhism would mostly be the people belonging to that particular class, particularly from the untouchables. And yes, that is true, guys. Most of the people or most of the followers of Buddhism were actually people who had been part of the untouchable community. So let's talk about the followers of Buddhism. So, Buddha organized a sangha. He founded a sangha, or he founded an organization where he basically, it was an organization of monks where the people or the followers of Buddha, they became teachers of Dhamma. Now, the monks lived very simple lives. They had the bare minimum required for survival. They had a bowl to receive food from the laity, which is from the common people, and they lived on alms, as in whatever bhiksha that people would give them, they would live on that, and they were known as bhikkhunis. So the people who joined the sangha, they were known as bhikkhunis. Now, initially only men were allowed inside the sangha, but later on women also were allowed. Now, how did this happen? This happened through the mediation of Ananda. Now, who is Ananda, guys? Ananda is Buddha's favorite disciple, also his cousin. Okay, ये इनके cousin भी थे. He was one of Buddha's favorite disciple, and he persuaded him that women should also be allowed in the sangha. And who became the first ordained bhikkhuni, or who was the first woman to join the Buddhist sangha? She was Mahapajapati Gautami, who was also Buddha's aunt and also Buddha's foster mother. So many after this, many women started entering the sangha. They became teachers of dhamma, then who went on to become theris, which is respected individuals, and who have attained liberation on their own, who have attained nirvana on their own. Now, as I told you, Buddha's followers came from many social groups. They could be Gahapatis, the workers, slaves, etc. So anyone who wanted to join the Buddhist Sangh, they could. It did not mean which caste, community, religion, or one you are coming from. And once you're inside the Sangh, you are going to be regarded as equal. Now, you have to shed your earlier identities, that whether you're a Brahman or a Vaishya or a Kshatriya or a Shudra, and you have to become either a bhikkhu or a bhikkhuni. Now, how was the Sangha organized? The Sangha was organized on the basis of consensus. Means, if you have to arrive on a decision, or if you have to decide on a particular thing, what could you do? You can have a discussion on it. And if the discussions failed, then a vote was taken. All right. Simple. Whoever is in it, whoever is for it, whoever is against it. So a vote was taken. Now, inside the Sangha, importance was attached to conduct and values, as in how you conduct yourself, what your values are, rather than what you were on the basis of birth. None of that is important. And emphasis was given on fellow feeling and compassion. So, belonging to each other, being compassionate towards each other, being nice towards each other, all of these was something which was part of the Buddhist Sangha. Now, it really attracted whom? It really attracted those people who were younger and who were weaker. So the weaker sections of the population, particularly the untouchables, they were the ones who really got attracted towards this. Okay? And men and women were all allowed inside the Sangha. Let me know if you have any doubts here, guys. Check the other slide also and let me know if there's anything you've not understood. Okay. There seems to be no doubt in the live chat, so let's move ahead. Now, so guys, since we started discussing about Buddhism, it is only good that we end our discussion with stupas. Now, why? So first of all, we started a discussion. We started a discussion with stupas. So I think we should know about the structure, and this is a very important part because you can get a lot of MCQs from here. So from the earliest times, people have been identifying certain places as being sacred. So either it can be a beautiful rock or some awe-inspiring natural beauty. So that's where you would construct the temples. Similarly, Buddhism also had chaityas, which was like a temple. So it had a statue of Buddha in the center, and there would be pillars on all the sides. You could enter it, you could pray there. Fine. So now, Buddhist literature mentions several chaityas. Now, this was constructed on places which were important in Buddha's life. So he was born in Lumbini, where he attained enlightenment, Bodh Gaya, where he gave his first sermon, Sarnath, where he attained Nibbana, Kusinagra. So all of these places were regarded as sacred, and that is why chaityas were constructed here. Okay? Now, then we have to understand why was stupas built. So apart from these places, there were certain other places which were regarded as sacred. What were these places? Now these were places where relics of Buddha had been spread. So relics means his bodily remains or whatever has been used by him, maybe his comb, or maybe a cloth that he has used, anything that has been used by him, it was distributed all throughout India and stupas were constructed over it. So according to Ashok Vadna, it's a book, Ashok was the one who distributed the relics of Buddha to very important centers, to the important places, and then he constructed stupas over them. Fine. So the stupas at Bharuch, Sanchi, Sarnath, all of that had already been built. Fine. And then you have the stupas at other places. So by 2nd century BCE, the stupas at Bharuch, Sanchi and Sarnath had already been constructed. Let me know if you have any doubts in these two slides. And guys, for those who are watching, who would watch this later, if you don't understand something, I would request all of you to put it in the comments section so that I can take it up in the next class. All right, चल आगे बढ़ते हैं. So, how was stupas built? So, according, we have found a lot of inscriptions on the railings and the pillars. We see that a lot of donations were made. All right. Now, some of the donations were made by Satvana kings. Ashok is obviously one of them. Others were made by the rich guilds or the rich merchant guilds. So we have this guild of ivory workers who basically finance one of the gateways of Sanchi. Ivory workers are basically those who work with elephant tusk. तो elephant tusk से जो चीज़ें बनती हैं उसको ivory कहा जाता है. Then hundreds of donations were made by men and women who have mentioned their names. Sometimes they would add the place where they are from, their occupations, the name of the relatives. This also gives us an insight into the social history or the common history, common people's history also. Then the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis have also contributed towards the monument. Now, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis could not have contributed in monetary terms, but yes, they have contributed in terms of physical labor. So they did provide, some sort of physical labor for the construction of the stupas. Now, it's very important that we discuss the structure of the stupa. So the stupa is derived from the Sanskrit word which means anda. Alright, so the semicircular mound of earth. Okay, I have a picture here. So the semicircular mound of earth, that is known as your anda. Okay? So this is the semicircular mound of earth that we are talking about. Above the anda is a hermika, a balcony-like structure which represents the abode of God. Arising from the hermika is a yashti, and surmounted on it is chhatri or umbrella. So this balcony like structure, this is known as your hermika. In the hermika you have this danda like thing or stick like thing which is known as your yashti. On the Yashti, you have the Chhatris. Now, this is known as the abode of gods, where the gods rested, and hence you have a Chhatri to provide him shelter, to provide him shade. Now, around the mound was a railing which separated the secular world from the sacred world. So this is the railing we are talking about. So inside this obviously was the sacred world because it was religious, and outside this was the secular world. Now, the gateways which are richly carved are installed in four cardinal points. So as I told you in the beginning of the lecture only, there are four gateways. So you can see West Toran. Toran here means the gate. West Toran, East Toran. And obviously there was the South Toran, and then you will be also seeing the North Toran, which is on the back side. So four cardinal directions pe hota tha. North, South, East, West. Now worshippers would enter through the eastern gateway, which means you are entering from this side. Sorry, you're entering from this side. You're entering from the eastern side. All right. So if you enter from this side, obviously the stupa is going to be on the right hand side, and you will be taking a parikrama. You will be doing in this direction. Okay, so you will be doing a parikrama in this direction in the clockwise manner. Now, the mound was in the right, imitating the sun's course through the sky. So this is how the sun also moves, guys, from east to the west, है ना? East में उगता है और west पे जाकर के डूब जाता है. That's what we're talking about. Fine. So initially the stupas were not very elaborately carved, but later on the stupas came to be very elaborately carved with beautiful niches and sculptures like the ones we've seen in Amravati and Shaji Ki Dheri in Peshawar. So this is how the structure of stupa was. So guys, let me know if you have any doubts still here, but this is where we will be ending our class today. And tomorrow for sure we will be having an MCQ session, and I'm really sorry for not taking an MCQ session today because I wanted to finish this. I wanted to talk to you regarding this because I started this session, but because of some technical error I was not able to finish it. So this is where I will end today's class. And before I leave, I would request all of you to join us on Telegram. The link has been given here. You can also use the scan code to scan and join the Telegram group. And also guys, our parent channel, as you know, was hacked. But we are back with a bang. We are back with, a lot of new videos. Our educators are working extra hard to provide you with all the videos once again. So please do support them by subscribing to the channel, and please do support us by subscribing to the channel. So before you all leave, do subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends. Comment if you have any doubt, comment if you want me to add something, comment if you want something from our side. Please do that. Also press the bell notification on so that you get quickly you will get an update regarding the video that we have posted. You will be notified about it, and most importantly, do subscribe to the channel. That is going to make us really happy. And when teachers are happy, they teach well, and when teachers are happy, they teach well. The students are also happy. So let's spread happiness all around, and let's subscribe to the channel. That will be a huge deal for us. So thank you so much for joining us here, guys, and it is the end of the class, and I will see you all in the next class. So thank you so much for taking out a precious time for joining me here. Take care. Good night. See you all. Bye bye.